I had to revisit some really dark places about things like sexual abuse and suicide.
He is a Scottish tarot reader who helps people all around the world with his readings and his advice. He wrote his latest book, Heart of the Cards, as part of his mission to use spirituality and holistic therapies to help others with their mental health. Andrew Greig.
I tried everything. I tried therapy, medication, I tried everything, tried speaking about it. One of my friends recommended Reiki. I kind of went in and it was like, this has to work. And if it didn't, I probably wouldn't be here today. That was the hardest thing probably writing it, was how do I put it out there but remain respectful? What do I pull back? Do they need to know that?
Andrew Greig, welcome to the Inspired by Show.
Thanks for having me.
So thank you for travelling all the way here. So a bit of context. Obviously, you're not normally in London. You've flown in
anything
today.
But normal.
So you've flown in today just to come to the studio.
Just to see you.
Ah, thank you so much, Andrew.
Nice guy occasionally.
It means a lot. So Andrew, obviously, I've known you for a little while. We've been working on your brand new book, Heart of the Cards, for a couple of months now. Feels like it's been a while.
Since December.
Yeah.
In fact, it was maybe in November we kind of got in touch, was it?
Yeah, definitely been probably about 6 months that we were working on your book together.
Yeah.
And so obviously I know you really well as the author of Heart of the Cards, but you're also known as a holistic therapist.
Yes.
So I'd love to start there because I think there's a lot of uncertainty and unknown about the holistic therapy world. So how would you describe a holistic therapist? Like, what sort of things do you do?
So holistic, it's one of those, to me, I think it's a buzzword. People just kind of throw it around without giving it any kind of context or explanation. But holistic means everything coming together. So with the therapies I do energy healing, I do spiritual healing, and I do reading as well. So I use a combination of things, bring them together, and use that to help the client as much as I can. So some people might want more of one thing than the other. So by using a few different tools, I can bring that together and give the client exactly what they need, whether they realize it or not.
Yeah.
So things like Reiki, sound therapy, even working with crystals, or what I'm probably most known for is the reading, working with the cards. So, but there's a lot more to it than that. But I mean, to me, holistic therapist, it really goes down to whoever's using the term. You might ask another holistic therapist and they might give you a completely different answer, which is brilliant because it's all coming together.
Yeah, exactly.
Does that make sense?
Totally, absolutely. And I think the thing that you touched on there is that it's different for everyone. And I think that's the beautiful thing about holistic therapy. I've been through quite a lot myself anyway, where different people will read different things and spot different things.
Yeah.
For you, Andrew, obviously you're a very intuitive person, very spiritual person. Have you always been into holistic therapy, or is it like something you've recently kind of come across?
No, it was kind of thrust on me, to be honest. As I kind of touch on in the book, the place where I grew up, northeast of Scotland, it was a fishing town, very Christian, very traditional, and anything different was kind of looked at through squinted eyes. It was just a bit like, ooh, you need to watch that. So it was something that I was kind of aware of, but I had the kind of typical mindset, especially being a male as well. It'd be like, well, that's not really for me. That's for people in San Francisco that are in their 60s wearing yoga pants that don't fit properly. That's the kind of attitude I had towards it. But when I was struggling more and more with my mental health, one of my friends, she's in the book quite prominently, the Hierophant, and she recommended Reiki. And I tried everything. I tried therapy, medication, I tried everything, tried speaking about it, and nothing was really working. So she'd suggested, in fact, two friends suggested to me the same weekend. I'm laughing because one of them was Conspiracy Mike. And if it was just him, I definitely wouldn't have invested in it. But because it was the other one in the same different circles, I was like, I'll give it a try just because it's you that's suggesting it. So I went in, got booked in for a session, and it just changed my life. Honestly, it was like I'd left the session, I kind of went in and it was like, this has to work. And if it didn't, I probably wouldn't be here today, 100%. And it just gave me a feeling that I'd never knew existed. It was a feeling that there was actually something else, something for me to do. There was actually a reason to keep going on. And it was just a hope that I hadn't really experienced in a long time. Does that make sense? It's such a profound impact on me. And it sounds cheesy when I describe it, but it was really powerful. And I just kind of grew from there over the last few years, just kind of explored different things. And I was just like a sponge. I was looking at shamanism. I was looking at all these other things, crystals. I still don't know the name of half the crystals I work with, but I like working with them. But I started learning about energy, about spirit. And it was such a wild trip. And it just opened up a world that I was kind of passively aware of it. But as I say, it was just, no, that's nothing to do with me. I kept that to the side. And it just kind of opened up a whole new world of possibilities for me. And I just really threw myself at it.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's been some ride.
I always love hearing that story, Andrew, because I can relate to it with my own experience of mental health and mental illness. And I always think that when you're at what I would call my rock bottom, you're prepared to try anything.
Yeah. You can only go up.
100%. You're like, this is not working. All this stuff, the talking therapy, the this, the that, everything that was recommended isn't working.
Yeah.
But actually, you're then ready and so open and willing to find something that did. And it sounds like exactly what happened to you.
I had to.
Yeah.
I had to. I was left with nothing. There was no other option. If that didn't work, as I said, I don't know what would have happened. I was in such a, as you say, you need that breakdown to have the breakthrough, though. I heard that somewhere, and I use that quite a lot because people don't realise how bad it can get until you're actually there. And then you think, well, as long as it's not that bad again, I'll be all right.
Yeah.
And it never will be.
And also because you've now got the tools, I always say, because I've got the tools in my toolbox and my toolkit, I can handle it.
Yeah.
You know, I still call them wobbles, by the way. I still have a wobble now and then. We're all human.
We're all human.
But you've got the tools to deal with it. So Andrew, I'm curious from your perspective, what was happening for you before you stepped into the Reiki world? What were you struggling with? How was it showing up for you?
There was a lot of things that I hadn't dealt with, particularly from like my childhood. There was some sexual abuse. There was these are things that people weren't even aware of that was happening. It was, as I say, when I was growing up, it was a single parent family, and the abuse kind of, from what I remember, it kind of started when I was maybe about 6 or 7. I can't be 100% sure on dates or anything, but there was multiple people involved at various stages, and that was up until I was about kind of 11, 12 years old. But the incidents were quite spread out because like they didn't really have regular access to me because like my mum was there quite a lot. And when I told her, it was really surprising, and for her obviously, but a lot of it, and you hear people speaking about repressed memories, and if you haven't had any experience with them, it's hard to relate exactly to what they are. But when I was going through a separation with my wife at the time, it hit me bad, and it was my decision to leave, but it really hit me bad, and a lot of these repressed memories started coming back at once, and it was a lot of different things that were triggering it. So things like the abuse, the bullying, just a feeling of isolation, not being able to relate to my peers and a lot of things. So even though a lot of time I was maybe around people, I've never really felt connected. So I've always kind of been on the outside looking in. That's what it kind of felt like for me. Then when I got more involved in this, it was like, hold on, there's more people like me. And I actually now have a term to put to it. And like spiritualism, holistics, whatever you want to call it, it's like I now have a thing that I can relate to, and this is me. It was fucking brilliant, you know.
Yeah, totally.
Pardon my English.
Oh,
I want to be the first.
Don't worry, Andrew. It's all welcome here. But thank you for sharing that so openly, because I think it is important for people to understand that we all come from different walks of life, and we all have different backgrounds, and actually often it helps us find the path that we need to be on. And as much as it's horrible to have experienced some negative things, I look back on my experiences in my childhood and I just think it was horrible, but actually I've learned so much from that. And I think it brings us to the path that we're on today. Now, I'm curious for you, Andrew, obviously where you're living, spiritualism and getting into all this sort of stuff, obviously it was a big change for you. How did people around you cope with that? Friends, loved ones?
They weren't very happy. No, it was too different. And it put my relationship with my family was already quite strained, and I just put another strain on it. And to begin with, it bothered me, but it's just something that they don't understand, and it's not something you can really force on anybody, and I never would. My friends, they don't really mind. I mean, I've always been a bit different to them, so they just they weren't expecting anything less, to be honest. So they just take a piss out of me most of the time, which is fine. It's all good banter, you know. But yeah, they kind of accept whatever I come away with, and just like, well, that's, as long as you're happy, that's the main thing. And people that I work with as well, because my background's always been engineering, it's quite surprising for a lot of people when they meet me, and then they kind of find out this side. I'm quite open with it, but yeah, it's been kind of mixed. It's been kind of mixed, and then the spiritual community as well. I just kind of came rocking in, being like, right, here's me. Where do you want me to go? And just completely different from what they were used to. So it's I normally stand out without even trying.
Yeah.
So I just kind of embrace it and just go for it.
Yeah, I love that. I love it though, because like you said, like the engineering side, which, let's be honest, is very logical, very technical. Then you've got the holistic therapy, which is probably the complete opposite in terms of all the different parts of the brain and how we work. How do you find yourself in wearing these two different hats? Do you feel like you're two different people, or you kind of find a way of blending them?
No, I'm just my authentic self wherever I go now. I don't even, like, I used to try and hide aspects of myself, depending on who I was with. Oh, they don't like this and they don't like that. But then I thought to myself, well, why am I putting my happiness in the power of all these people when they probably don't even care? So I just thought, well, I'll just go for it. And wherever I am, I'm just me. So if people want to talk about it, I'll talk about it. If they don't, I won't. I don't force it on anybody, but I'll just kind of go in, float about, do my thing, and then go home.
Yeah.
Happy when I get up and happy when I get home, which is not a lot of people can say that, especially nowadays, because where they're projecting their happiness, everybody's focused too much on what's outside. Forget about all this. You know? So it's it doesn't affect one doesn't affect the other.
Yeah, brilliant.
You know? So
how do you find it though, Andrew? Because I know a lot of spiritual people, and I often see there's almost like I wouldn't say a frustration, but a struggle when you have a loved one that's struggling, or you know someone that's struggling, and you know spirituality will help them or holistic therapy will help them, but they're closed-minded to it. How do you handle that?
You can't take it personally. The saying with the leading the horse to water, but you can't make it drink, that's exactly what it is. And I find that can be a problem with a lot of people in the spiritual community that don't take that step back. And especially when I first started getting the confidence to start taking in clients and seeing them, I was really invested in giving them the same outcome I got. So I put in a lot of effort, and I was taking a lot on board. And eventually it was like, well, somebody said to me, you can't get invested in the outcome. And I thought, Kenneth, that's a fair point, because you're giving, as you say, you're showing them the way, you're giving them the tools, you're saying this might help, and if they don't use it, it's not your fault. So you can't get frustrated. You can't let yourself get frustrated with that. And it's the same with anything, really. If you start taking too much stuff on board that's not yours, there's a 10 of Wands energy right there. It's just going to weigh you down. And a lot of people will say things like, oh, I can't help it, I'm an empath. It's like, well, I'm an empath as well, but I don't let it control me. As soon as you say you're something, you're identifying as that, you're taking all that on board. So, yeah, you're an empath, but you need to be able to control that. And if you can't, a lot of people get involved in the spiritual and the holistic side of things, and they're not ready for it because they haven't put in that work to themselves. So I've known a few people that's kind of came in with the best of intentions, really good, cracking people, a lot of talent, a lot of gifts, but because they forget about themselves, they kind of burn out and they kind of fizzle out, and then eventually they'll come back, which is brilliant, because you always see a massive difference in them, because a lot of them will learn the lessons, right? That's why that didn't happen. And I found out with my readings, I was taking everything on board, especially if I could relate to it, and I was going home and I was just knackered. I was going home, I was like, I can't deal with this anymore. It was really hard. So I put a lot of work into myself when I started doing this more seriously, because I thought, well, I can't put myself out there for people to come into me for help if I can't help myself properly yet. So I did take a step back at that point. So I was one of them. I kind of went in, oh, this can help. Come on, try it. Right, hold on. Why am I so depressed again? It's nothing to do with me. So again, it's just learning how to control that.
Yeah. Do you know, I can really relate to that, not from a spiritual side, but when I first came out of the depression I had, I used to use the label my depression. Or if I'm on podcast interviews, and even now I catch myself, and one person once said to me, Chloe, you know, you always say my depression. And I've, until that point, had never realized it. And I was like, why am I owning that? Why am I taking an identity of that? And as soon as I let that go, and now I say when I had depression, or the time I had depression, or whatever, it just feels so different.
That's right.
And I remember when I then came out the other side, and people would approach me and say, oh, how did you do it? And I'd be like, oh, I can try and help you. And actually, I'm the worst person to help someone with depression, because I'm not trained in that. That's not really, it's not my genius, if you see what I mean. But I think it's so hard when you've been through pain and you've felt the benefits. You kind of just want to impose that on other people, don't you? Because you know how powerful it can be.
Aye, definitely. Just kind of like on the back of that as well, there's a lot of lost people, and they just need somebody to tell them what to do. But you can't. You can suggest things 100%. Yeah, this worked for me, but try it, be open to it. And if it doesn't work, try something else. Take suggestions, take advice, but as soon as you start putting the focus on what this person's telling me, that's why I'm careful with readings, because I never tell anybody what to do. I can suggest things, look at the spread, right? This is what it's indicating, and this might help, but it's up to you what you do with it. And things like labels as well. People love labels just now, and I know a lot of people, and I have known a lot of people over the years that they've maybe went to the doctor and says, oh, you've got anxiety and depression. And that's them. They've taken it as a life sentence. So 10 years later, oh, the doctor said I've got anxiety and depression. Yeah, who doesn't? It's just how you deal with it. It's a mindset. And if you can give people the tools on how to strengthen their mindset and change it so that they can look at the world from a different point of view, right? What is it exactly that's causing this depression? Is it something from the past? What is it specifically? And that's when repressed memories can start coming back. Okay, right. Was that something that I could have changed? No. Well, why am I still holding on to it? What's the lesson? And if there isn't one, why are you holding on to it? So it's just, sometimes it's just a conversation. That's all you need. And that's all they need. Just a different point of view. And it's brilliant. When you see that light bulb moment with him, it's honestly, it's such a rewarding experience. It's a privilege to share it with him. I love it.
And for people to trust you with it as well, right?
It's a massive privilege, honestly. If most of my kind of bookings come from word of mouth, which is brilliant. And especially to begin with. I mean, I've got a lot more confidence now, but there's still that aspect of trying to control the ego. So people will say to me, oh, are you accurate? Are you a good reader? And be like, well, it depends on what you think. Come and try me. See what you make of me. So far, there's been no complaints. But you've got to kind of be careful with that as well, because people, to trust in a reader, they're obviously there for a reason. They're needing help with something or support or advice, whatever it is. How you word something can be really triggering for them. And especially, like, I don't control the cards that come out. I'm not like a magician or anything like that. And a lot of time I get the querent, that's who the client is for coming for a reading. I get them to shuffle the cards. So if anything bad comes out, I can put the blame back to them. It's like, well, it's your cards, you know. I'm just here interpreting for you. So there has been a lot of difficult things that's came up during the readings. And one of the things I kind of noticed pretty quickly was that, as you just kind of touched on there, I wasn't necessarily prepared to deal with some of that. I've dealt with my depression and what have you, but when it comes to somebody else's, I don't know all their story. So I kind of took a step back and I put myself through some training for like counsellor skills and like behavioural therapy training as well. I would never class myself as a therapist, but the skills so that I can listen effectively and ask the right kind of questions and kind of put it in a softer way so that this is a horrible situation, but there's always a positive outcome. So how you handle that can be quite delicate. And again, some people, if they've had a bad experience with a reader, that'll put them off for life. You know, so I'm like I always say to them, I'm maybe not for you. Don't let it put you off, because we all work differently. You know, like I never do my own cards. Maybe the odd one or two just for a crack, but not anything seriously.
Yeah, it's a real gift being given the opportunity to do that. I'm curious from your perspective, Andrew. Obviously, you let them shuffle their own tarot cards and you let them pick and you interpret. That obviously massively relies on their connection and their spirituality and their intuition. Do you believe that everyone has the gift?
100%. Everybody can do it. It's just a case of practicing and getting the right skills. Like I do tarot workshops quite regularly. I do spiritual development training as well for people that are interested, just to kind of help them tap into that. So there's another saying: all men are created equal. So everybody's created. Obviously, there is exceptions. The situation around the person might be different, but the person themselves is created equally. So we've all got the same gifts. There might be certain aptitudes towards certain things, but again, that's just working on it. So I could take you through a reading in 10 minutes and explain to you how it works or how you can use that. If you're naturally spiritual, it'll be easier, but it's just practice. And if you get the right teacher as well, that helps. But it's not for everyone. Anybody can do it. Like, it's just put a wee section in my book there. Anybody can. I can draw a picture, but I'm not an artist. I can tune up a guitar and play a few chords, but I'm not a musician. So people can do anything they want. It's just a case of how far do you want to go with it. Does that make sense?
Definitely. And also, I always look at it as how committed you are to the long term of it. So, for example, if it's a big why, if we've got a big why, we've got a big mission, we've got a big purpose, it makes it easier to push through the challenging times or really connect to something. Whereas I think when people are doing like dabbling or hobbies, that's when it becomes easy to drop off. And let the wobbles kick in.
That's a difference between, like, if somebody's doing it for a hobby or an interest, or if they're doing it like what I am. If you select the wrong cards, that can massively put you off. So it really depends on what you're working with as well. And there's still a lot of myths and stereotypes and legends around tarot and spiritualism as a whole that kind of put people off. And so the first kind of workshop I'd advertised, there was a lot of comments. Oh no, that's the devil's work, and oh, don't you have to be a certain way, or do you need to have like gifted certain aspects, like people gifting you your first set of cards? It's like, well, no, it doesn't matter. You go out and buy them if you want. So there's all these things that are kind of holding people back. So I mean, if somebody's committed enough to it, they'll find a way. They'll keep coming back to it and until something sticks. Even if it's just as a curiosity. I've naturally been curious about a lot of things as well. So especially when I first got involved in this, I was looking at everything, and certain things didn't stick because it's like, well, it doesn't resonate with me. I'm not that interested. I don't want to, like, I was trying to do palm reading for a while, and I was looking at it for a while. I thought, no, this isn't for me. I'll stick to the cards. So if it's not genuine, or if it's not authentic, I don't see the point in doing it. So I kind of know what I'm good at, what I like, and I'll just kind of stick with that now. So I can't see me branching out too much further than what I currently do.
But I think it just depends on what you want, right? It's like in any career, in any role, in any human, we're all got things we're good at, and we got things that we like more. And I remember, I mentioned to you off camera, my family are fairly spiritual. My mum sort of dabbled and then gets terrified and then dabbles and then jumps in and out. But it's always been something I've always felt a pull towards, and I didn't really know why. And I remember once my friends are very spiritual, trying to get me into tarot reading, trying to get me into cards and all sorts of stuff. And when I met you, I was like, it was all happening around the same sort of time. And I remember you saying that, actually. I was like, this is not a coincidence.
No, it's never a coincidence.
This is a really big thing. And I remember a year before that, I had a really difficult time in business and personal, and it was so much all at once. And I remember literally being like, I'm at my lowest again and I need a hand. And I randomly got this feeling that I just need to go and buy some cards. And I was in Jersey, which is where I'm born, but I don't have I'm not there all the time. And so I just walked down the street. I was like, I think there's a card shop here, I think from years ago. And there was, and I bought a deck and I went home and I was doing some cards. And I can't remember which card it was. You'll probably know better. And it basically, the message was have faith. And actually, I think it was resources we were struggling with. So it was one of the resource cards. It was like, it'll work out for you. Long story short, I looked at my baggage label. My eye got caught on my baggage label because I'd just arrived and it was still on my suitcase, and it had 555 was the flight number. Now, bearing in mind, I'd never noticed the flight number until that point. So I just thought, just going to, for argument's sake, Google what 555 means, just out of curiosity. And it was like, change is coming, be trustworthy and trust it. Within 48 hours, we'd resolve the issues.
Magic.
And it was just like, I felt like, people have stories all the time of this sort of thing, right? But I feel like the point I'm trying to make is you don't always have to go and sit down and go, I'm going to have a reading and I'm going to do it really formal. And sometimes I was at my wit's end. I was literally like, almost, I don't think you should test the universe, but I was almost at the point going, come on, then prove it. I was really like, I need this. And luckily it worked. And so I feel like there's an unwavering faith that comes from those sort of experiences, no matter how big or small.
Yeah. People, the thing where, like you're kind of touching on there, like trusting the universe, people don't have patience nowadays. So you want something, you want it now. You don't want to wait for it because you're struggling now, not in 6 weeks' time. But you don't get anything until you're ready for it. So with things like spiritualism as well, you won't get anything until you're ready for it. Same with like if you're going through a breakdown, things get released in stages because your mind knows what you're capable of handling. It won't give you too much. And this is something that I kind of learned looking at some therapy like workshops, like some like free online resources that I was kind of reading and looking at. And I thought that's brilliant because it's like your mind is constantly testing you. So the universe is saying to you there, right, okay, yeah, your things are nae good. Just hold on. Hey, a bit of faith, right? Keep going, keep going, keep going, right? There's a little bit of something, right? Okay, keep going. Right, now you can hit. So it's good because you hear things like this all the time. But then this comes back to energy and manifesting. People focus on the lack. They focus on what they don't have. And how the universe works, depending on what you believe, of course, is the universe it's not emotional. It doesn't look at things the way we look at it. So it's like, right, you're focusing on the fact that you've got no money. Right, here's some more. No money. Right, perfect. Have more of that. You've got an abundance of no money or whatever it is. Oh, I'm always depressed. Well, here's more depression. Have some of that. See how that makes you feel. So again, this is back to changing your mindset. Right, okay, what do I want? I want more money. Usually that's one of the kind of common things that people come to. Oh, am I ever going to get wealthy? Well, depends on what you do. So change how your mindset works. Again, you're noticing the number 5. You're looking at changes. You're thinking the number 8, abundance, a very abundant number. This is a number 8 year, actually, 2024. And when people start focusing and changing their mindset, that's when they start to notice things. So the quicker you can do that, the quicker you'll get it. And so if you're wanting a new car, like a red BMW, for example, not that I'm sponsored by BMW, but you're going to start seeing red BMWs everywhere because you're looking for it. You're subconsciously looking for it. And this is for everything. This is how manifesting works. So it's just a case of when you get it and how big of a gap it is between where you are now and what it is you want. So it's all right for somebody to say, I want to be a millionaire. But if you've got absolutely zero in your bank, barring some very freak kind of lottery win or something, it's unlikely to change anytime soon. So how can you start manifesting it, breaking it down into little goals? Right, do that. Start focusing on it. Right, what do I need to get to that goal? Instead of focusing on that, come back to here and then just one step at a time. And again, you can tie all this back into the cards as well. And when you can do that with somebody, seeing that change is just magic. It's like there's just something, when they get it, it's like, I can just stop now.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant, you know. Anytime somebody comes for a reading, I just want it to be an experience for them. And it's usually pretty good for them.
I think that's the power though, isn't it? Is that sometimes people just need to understand it, and that's what the reading does, because I think so many people have questions, don't they? They're like, what does that mean? And like you say, I mean, I was always told tarot was, like mystical and that sort of stuff. And actually, it's just another version of spirituality. It's just another tool that you can use. Yeah. And Andrew, I want to obviously talk about the fact that you went on to learn this stuff for yourself, then for others, and then you decided to take the crazy journey of writing it in a book. So tell us about where the idea of Heart of the Cards came from, and we'll go from there. Now, I just want to interrupt this episode to share with you a little bit of advice on writing your book. Now, one of the things that I often get asked as a book publisher is, Chloe, how do you actually write it? How do you get your ideas out of your head and actually get it into a published book? And one of the things that some of you may not know about me was my first book, I actually wrote it in just 10 days and published it in 28 days. And so a lot of my clients and authors that we publish ask me, how did you do it? Can you help me do it too? And so what I found myself doing was repeating my system to a lot of our clients. And for the first time ever, I've now released it in a book format. So it's known as Just Write the Damn Book. And in this book, you'll find out the exact system, the 6-step process that you can use to write your book, publish your book, and get it out into the hands of people that need it the most. In there, I'm going to share with you the book writing blueprint, which will help you get your ideas out of your head, get out of your own way, and write your book fast and easy so that you can ultimately get the results, grow your brand, and help people that need it the most. So if you want to learn how to write your own book, become a best-selling author and build your status, and ultimately just write the damn book, then get your hands on the book now. You'll find it in Amazon, Waterstones, Barnes & Noble, all of the usual bookstores, wherever else you get it. And it's also available on Audible, Kindle, paperback, and hardback. So grab your copy now, and it's time to just write your damn book.
This is well, maybe not a strange story. I've always loved books. I've always wanted to be a writer. And I've got a kind of joke with some of my friends, like when I sell 500,000 copies, I notice the key word there, when, I'll be able to retire to my insanity, log cabin. So have you ever seen the film Secret Window with Johnny Depp?
No.
All right, he's an author and he goes insane in a log cabin. So it's basically like, not that I want to go insane, but that's my log cabin in the woods where I can just write. Anyway, back to the story. So I was looking at metaphysics, which is all kind of quantum. Everything that can't happen is happening. It's just a case of what you're observing. So I started looking for some courses for that. So I found this University of Sedona, and they're like in fact, they are the main metaphysical university in the world. So I was reading into that, and I thought, well, I'll give this a punt. I'll see how I get on. So it's all about manifested mindset, attitude, all things that I was interested in. But it was formatted in a way that I could really, it was like structured learning. So I looked at that and I was reading through and I thought, well, I'm going to go for this. So it kind of breaks down. You get your bachelor's, you get your master's, you get your PhD. And I was just kind of reading through the prospectus there and kind of projecting a little bit ahead. I thought, right, for doing the master's, I needed to do a project. So I started thinking, what kind of project could I do with that? And then I started thinking about writing. And I thought, well, there's a story that's in the book. I was in a pub in Glasgow, and basically the whole place came to a stop for me explaining the psychology of tarot, because I'd finished a reading, I was just shuffling my cards, and the bar staff were asking what I was doing, so I was telling them, and basically all the customers came through, people from the kitchen, the owner eventually came down, it was wild. Anyway, so I was thinking about that, I thought, well, there's a psychology behind the cards, not just symbolism and what have you, you can really change it. So I could get 3 different readings, and this has happened. And it was up for in a restaurant, and I was doing 3 readings for some friends, and all 3 of them got one of the same cards, and every time it meant something different, which is really powerful because it's not just a script. So I thought, right, the psychology of the cards is something that everybody could potentially relate to. So I started penciling that ideas for that down. I hadn't even started my bachelor's yet, and I was already thinking about my master's. So I thought, right, okay, there's something here. And I thought, well, how can I make it more accessible? I thought, well, I can put myself into it, take what I've dealt with and explain it that way, so that you're seeing the card, a little bit of the symbolism, but you're also getting a section of somebody's life that could actually relate directly to that. And it's obviously worked because people are responding to it the way that I was hoping. The feedback's been brilliant. So that's where that kind of idea came from. So I finished my bachelor's now, and I'm an ordained minister for the International Metaphysical Ministry of Metaphysics, which is wild. I'm just waiting for my official documents to come through for that. So I'll be starting my master's later on. So my project's basically finished. I just need to change it a little bit. So
Wow.
that's where that all kind of started.
Oh my gosh. And now you've got a best-selling book.
I know.
That's come from out of it.
See, it's still, I'm still absorbing that. It's absolutely insane. You know, like I knew that it was something special because like when I was writing it, it was like something else. There's so many people written about tarot, but nobody's written about it the way I have. And I thought people are ready for this. And obviously are, which is brilliant. And I'm still kind of reeling. That's been just over a month. A month yesterday, was it? It's been out, and people are getting in touch and sending me messages and emails. I got a message for this guy, a pipe fitter for offshore, based on, like me, unspiritual. And he's like, there's just something that you can, like, his wife kind of put him onto it. He's like, I haven't read a book since I've left the school, and this is the first book I've finished. And there's been so many of what kind of comments. It's been brilliant. It's been a massive, massive privilege to be able to share this with people, and for them to respond the way they have. It's just beautiful, you know, completely unexpected.
But also, I can say this as the publisher, so well deserved, because Andrew, you're one of the few authors that we work with who is so humble but so honest and raw in your book. You know, there were so many times we were like, oh, I'm not sure if I can include that because I don't want to offend this person, or I want to do this right. And you were so caring and compassionate of other people the whole way through the journey. Even our team, you know, you were such a great person to work with, and I think you can see that through the book as well. Your honesty, your authenticity, your honest opinions. You know, it's nice because I remember when, as I was saying, I kind of got into tarot a little bit, and I said to my friends, because I'm a bit of a lifelong learner, I was like, I really want to understand this. I want to learn it. I don't want to read people. I just want to understand, so that if I talk to people or I do my own readings on myself, like, how does that work? And I think I met you the week after. And it was like, well, I don't need to buy a book anymore because we're going to write one, you know? And now here it is. And I think it's been an absolute journey to see you go on that. What was it like for you actually writing a book? What did you find surprising? Was there anything that you struggled with in particular?
When I was doing it, it was important for me to be authentic. And I kind of put a bit at the end. I had to revisit some really dark places. And for me to put that across, I had to let myself get back into that state of mind. And it was difficult because it was like, well, what do I include? What do I pull back? Do they need to know that? So, like, as I say, there's a disclaimer at the beginning about things like sexual abuse and suicide and bullying and things like that. But I thought, well, they don't need the details. All they need to know is that aspect of it. So it was, obviously, I've got the details, which isn't fine, but the reader doesn't need to know that because they'll be able to relate to it in their way. And again, some of the comments and the messages that I've had reflect that. It's like, well, I don't know what you've been through, but this is what that meant to me. And people have really opened up, and it's brilliant because it's like, I don't want to sound ego, but the kind of general message I'm getting from them is that it's the first time somebody is really giving them a voice to be able to say, this has happened to somebody else. It's not just me. I can deal with it and I can talk about it. And honestly, I keep using the word privilege because it's for somebody that I don't even know to reach out and tell me that. It's just magic. It must have taken them a lot. So I do try and be as respectful as I can with people. So that was the hardest thing probably writing it, was how do I put it out there but remain respectful. So that was quite difficult. So there was quite a lot of revision changes before even coming to you and your team. So that was quite hard.
How did you find the writing process? Obviously, you were writing it on your own because we hadn't met yet. We started working with you on the publishing side. Did you find that you mentioned they're struggling with aspects of it, but did you find that you were questioning, like, what order do I put it in, or how does this work? Yeah,
there was the proofreader that I used before. He kind of helped structure it a little bit better for me. I had a good kind of idea how it should be because, well, like I was working as a training consultant for a few years, so I kind of know how to break things down so that people can understand. If I can understand it, I like to break it down. If I don't understand it, I'll go and understand it and then break it down. So what was logical for me was to go start at the beginning. Right, so we're speaking about the fool's journey. Right, who's the fool? It's me. Right, so where did I start? Give them that so that they've got something to apply the rest of the journey to, so they can come back and see the development. So the actual writing process itself was all right, because I've always liked writing. Like I've written a few other things, like nothing published, obviously, but I'm kind of happy enough writing things. There was a lot of blocks, like, but if I'm not in the mindset, I won't do it. I don't force anything. I don't see the point. It's a waste of energy.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
What would you say surprised you the most about becoming a published and now best-selling author?
Just what you're saying there. Published and best-selling. It's just wild, even just completely unexpected. And it'll be, and this is just a start, so like there's been some magazines been in touch asking me to do something for them, and it's really opened a lot of doors already. As I was saying to you before we went on air, like people at fairs and holistic events have asked me to come and do talks, and although I've done talks before at places, I'm getting asked a bit more now. So people are paying attention, and it's good because I think people can relate to me a bit better than some other people. Again, not to be disrespectful, but there is still a lot of stereotype and stigma with this kind of thing. I kind of break that. So I've got my own little niche and I play into that. So people just don't expect it from me. So again, without sounding disrespectful, normal people are more likely to listen to somebody that's kind of relatively normal, kind of works day to day, kind of grew up where I grew up and had that kind of background, than somebody who's kind of got wild, kind of green dreadlocks and clothes that are patched together, that are speaking about all this kind of buzzwords. Again, no disrespect, but if it's coming from somebody like that, that's kind of too far removed from where they are. So I'm kind of like a buffer in between the two. So people are kind of looking and be like, right, this doesn't make sense. Let's find out more. So I'm a bit of a curiosity, I think. Somebody said to me, one of the first fairs I did, it was like, what are you about? And it was just, it was funny. It all just kind of came together nicely.
Yeah. But you're right, though, because people tend to gravitate towards people that are more like them.
Yeah.
So if you look normal and they feel normal, then they're more likely to go, I'm going to try him first.
Yes.
Right, because otherwise people get scared of things that are too different, don't they?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, people that go too far down that path of being so different, I think can often scare people and also do them a disservice, because they could probably really help them.
100%. I'm very self-aware of how I am to people, and I'm very deliberate in what I say as well, because I know how it can be interpreted. So again, that comes back to the work I've put into myself. I've put a lot of work into how I communicate, obviously coming from a training background as well. How I communicate with people is important because I need to be understood so I can move on. I don't like wasting time. I try and be efficient with my communication. I don't like to over-explain things. Break it down, simple. Do you get it? Yes, let's move on. But as you say, that kind of, some people are so different. You go in and ask them and they're speaking about all the universes and the stars and manifesting, which is kind of what I'm speaking about, but they're just going straight up there instead of bringing the person up. And some people, although they're brilliant and talented and really good at what they do and can help people, the self-awareness might not be the same about how they're presented. So it can be difficult.
But one thing I really love that you shared there, Andrew, was something that I always try and encourage our authors to get prepared for, but no one ever really does, right? Because when you first write a book, I don't know if you'd agree with this, but the goal is write the book mainly to help people. I mean, we're called Inspired by Publishing. We don't really get people that want to get rich quick. Like, it's really, and if they do, they kind of get thrown the door. Like, we want to work with people that are really passionate. Yeah, they want to grow their brand and they want to grow their business like you do, but it's about helping people first. And so similar to you, want to write a book. Then they write a book, but they don't realize the impact it's going to really have. And this is the bit that I light up with, because I get so excited. I want to speak to all our authors before their launch, because I'm like, get ready, and even, what you've experienced where the feedback's fantastic, you're getting opportunities, it's opening doors. People never really, really realize what a book can do until you've got it, until you've done it.
That's right. I was one of the reviews I was reading, it had me in tears. I was just getting ready to leave, and I was already running behind, because I kept remembering things, and somebody messaged me, "Oh, there's a review for your book," and I was reading it, and I was just like, I'm going to be 10 minutes late. I need to compose myself. But oh no, the impact, yeah. I mean, I've had it as well, reading books, and sometimes it's maybe something you already know, but it's just worded slightly different, or even just hearing somebody else say it, it just hits you differently. So yeah, I mean, I've always thought books have had a massive impact on people. And I think folk are starting to realise that again. People are starting to get interested in books again, and the actual physical feel and hold and smell of them, which is good. So I've kind of came in at the right time.
Yeah, you're like, here's a great one for you.
Here's a nice one, yeah. Nice guy.
Yeah. I'm curious, Andrew, I always like to ask our authors this, because you've now been on the journey of writing. You've published a book. You've done fantastically well with it. What advice would you give to any of our viewers or listeners who are thinking of writing a book, or maybe in the process of writing a book? What would you say to them or advise them? Just
go for it. Trust yourself. If it feels right, it is right. Get the help that you need. Like I knew I needed help with things like sentence structure and like proofreading and things like that. I didn't need help with the content. It was just the presentation that I needed help with, and I got that help. And it gave the product, and I wanted to give the book the best chance it can. So anybody that is interested, just do it. Write things down, change it. Just because you've written it down doesn't mean it's final. As you and your team know, there's been quite a few revision changes, but usually quite small things. But just when you're reading it kind of develops naturally. But also, don't be too precious of it, because you can always go back and change things. And you've got to get to a point where you think, right, I'm happy. That's it, going out. And don't, because you can keep going back and it'll never be ready, because you're your own worst critic. So it's about understanding at what point is it ready for everybody else, because it'll never be ready for you, because you're always going to keep finding something. Yeah, that's what I would say.
I completely agree. I completely agree. I remember when like we see it with our authors all the time. It's like, let go of the baby. Like you've done the best you can.
That's right.
And because otherwise it will always change. Because also one of the fascinating things I don't think authors realize, and I don't know if you experience this yourself, but the person you are when you start the idea of the book and the writing of the book is not the same person you are when you publish it.
No.
Not only has time passed and you've grown, but you've learned so much. You've healed a lot. You know, book writing is quite therapeutic. I think more than people actually really anticipate. Like
I say to people to journal and write things down all the time.
Yeah.
As a way to release something and to make it real.
Yeah. And like you said in your book, you've got to go back to dark places that maybe we thought we were good with. I had to do exactly the same thing, and you suddenly realize you're like, why am I getting emotional? I thought I healed this. I thought it was good, you know. And you've got to go there, but it's for the right reasons.
And by you doing that as well, you're helping people do the same.
Exactly. And if we didn't put that level of emotion into it, if you didn't put that in, people wouldn't go there. They wouldn't relate as much.
It would feel too forced and kind of scripted, I think. And I didn't want that. I've always, like, my reputation's always been quite important to me, how people kind of perceive me. I don't really care about what people think of me, as long as they know I'm being genuine. That's all that matters to me. Is if people thought I wasn't being authentic, I wouldn't like that. But I don't think anybody could say that about me now. I don't care what they think about me, but they know that it's me being me. I'm not hiding anything.
Yeah.
This is what you get.
But I think that's the best way to be, even in books, right? People say to me, "Oh, can I swear in my book?" And I you know, I'm a bit more controversial. And I'm like, put it in the book, because your humor, your personality, that's what's going to make people connect, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So it's important to put that flavor in, and you've absolutely done that, Andrew, with your stories, with your humor. You know, you can definitely read it. I always find I love it when I read a book and I can hear the author's voice. Like I know that that's the author, not an AI tool or someone else or whatever. Yeah, it's been a great journey seeing your book come to life, and obviously even when we get the cover designed and it starts to feel very real. So thank you for trusting us
thanks
as your publisher, and just it's been an absolute whirlwind. Yeah, it's been great fun. Now, Andrew, we're almost out of time. I feel like time has absolutely flown. I knew it. We could just talk, especially because you've flown over. I'm like, let's talk longer. But I don't want to be respectful of your time. So I'm curious from your perspective, one of the things we always ask our authors and our interviewees, any point at the end of the interview, no matter their background, is we have got one final question. So who do you know that has an inspiring story that you think we should have on the show next?
I knew this question was coming, and I've been trying to think of somebody that isn't like a celebrity, or because I don't really watch TV, I don't really know celebrities or anything like that, or what they're dealing with. The person that inspired me the most, unfortunately, is no longer with us. For me to suggest one person over anybody else would be a disservice. So in my circle, I wouldn't want to highlight one person because that would offend other people. So I can't answer that, I'm afraid.
Ooh, good. That's the first time we've ever had that as a.
It's nice to be the first.
Exactly. Make waves. I love it, Andrew. Is there anyone in your circle that you think, or more than one person in your circle that you think could have a book in them?
Yes. I've only met her once. Her name's Lorna 𝘏𝘰𝘭𝘴, and she is a phenomenal talent, and she's been on some journey as well, kind of similar to myself. But she's definitely got a book in her. And as I say, I've only met her once. We've only spoken a few times, but there's just something there. There's a story there that I think would be really interested. Lorna 𝘏𝘏𝘏, that's her. She's definitely got something in her.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Andrew. See, I always know, I get this feeling, I'm like, it's just the amount of people that we get connected with. I massively believe we get connected with everyone for a reason. I mean, we got connected through a mutual friend, and here we are now. And I'm just super grateful that you've let us support you in your book, and you've come here today to the studio. So thank you so much.
No, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Good. Well, I hope you have enjoyed that interview with Andrew and got so much from that, especially if you're not into the spiritual side yet. I hope you took a lot out of that and thought, do you know what, actually, maybe I will give it a dabble. Or maybe you're thinking of writing a book, or you're already halfway through writing a book. Hopefully this has inspired you to follow Andrew's recommendations and really trust yourself and be you. Be yourself. So I hope you have enjoyed this. Now, as always, if you haven't already, if you are watching our YouTube channel, do make sure you share in the comments what has been your biggest takeaway from this interview. And if you're watching on YouTube, listening on any of the Spotify or Apple platforms, or wherever you get your podcasts, do make sure you subscribe for more so you don't miss our next guest next week. I'll see you soon.